Welcome to Kitchen Table Life with Nancy and Charity, a podcast where friends gather to spill the coffee. We talk practical truth about life's challenges, loving well, and leading strong.
Come on, friends, and gather round.
Have you ever heard something you shared in confidence, later retold in public to you by someone else? Have you ever been the one sharing? Well, that's gossip, my friends. And that's what we're talking about today here on the kitchen table with our special guest, Emma Keek is joining the show. Welcome to the kitchen table, Emma.
Hey, good to be here.
We're so happy
Emma,
you're here, by the way. Thank you for joining us because we have a big table and we want to see all our friends.
that's right.
So
Charity's
exciting.
been on me for a little bit. She's like, we need more people to come visit the kitchen table. And so I'm working on it. And it took us a couple months to get you here because you've been at Bible college, but we're excited to have you with us.
Yeah,
And you brought the topic today.
I did. Yes.
So
That's right.
we are talking about gossip. So Emma, because we're all different ages here. I know you work with youth sometimes, but you're also in the college group. So what made you say, like, I'm coming on a podcast, let's dive into gossip?
Oh man. Yeah, I've been a youth leader since like 2019. And one of the big things that happens in youth groups and honestly in churches in general, whether it be where I'm at Bible college or in a youth group or even just friend groups and people in general, I feel like it's a topic that a lot of people struggle with because a lot of people like to talk. And, when you talk, sometimes things come out that probably shouldn't. So,
Well, it's interesting. You say when people talk, but when this topic came up, the very first thing that came to mind was prayer.
yeah.
And, and
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
I know that sounds weird, but I remember because, most of our listeners that have been with us for a little bit, they know that I didn't grow up in church. And so, I'm always listening to understand and to grow and how does this prayer thing work? And I remember being in this prayer circle in this church that we helped plant years ago. And this woman, she got to praying, and it was like, and Lord, pray for Emma because and like she would tell your whole week's worth of business because we know she needs you, Jesus. And then pray for Charity, and then would come out everything that's going on in Charity's life. And I'm like, it's okay. Because I don't know, right? And I'm not praying because I don't want to do that. Not yet. But then I saw other people pray differently. And then as I'd been there for a while, my prayers started to be, Lord, don't let her pray today because she knew a lot of business about people. That's all I'm saying. And as I grew in my faith and I started to study the word more, I really learned that gossip does not glorify God. And when he asked us to make our petitions known and pray to him, I quickly learned that that was not what he meant.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, because then you knew like all that information about all those other people in the prayer now, and that you might not even know who they are. And suddenly, like,
Right. Or if I did, now it's in my head. And
yeah,
some of it was a lot to take in. I
yeah.
mean, I'm not going to repeat it because we're talking about not gossiping. So I don't want to add the fuel to the fire, even though, that was a long time ago.
I had something actually really similar happen at one of the jobs that I work at. I had a person come up to me and tell me something about one of my coworkers, and they had mentioned to me something that this coworker had done, supposedly done,
Sure.
and like I have no idea whether or not what they told me was true, but that thing that they told me completely changed the way that I saw my coworker. And it took a really long time for me to change it back, or at least get it back to a point where I wasn't treating them differently. Because I even noticed that subconsciously I would like respond to them differently. I would act differently around them based
Yeah.
on And I don't even know if it was true. And it was told to me and I had to get over that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's not uncommon, unfortunately, especially in the workplace. When you're a new employee coming in, sometimes people will say, "Oh, and you're gonna love Charity because, but watch out for Emma." And it may be an encounter that they had with you one time, but they've
Mhm.
now framed you in a light, gossiped about a situation to that individual, and now you're not even starting. I think the word you used before was neutral. You're not even starting in a neutral playing field where you have an opportunity to build that relationship and build that trust.
Yeah, you come in with this guise of like, oh, well, this is who they are, and you might not even know what's really going on.
So I wonder, like, Charity and Emma, do you all have thoughts? Because I wonder, like, we've really talked about two types of gossiping, right? It's the part where, and can I just say up front, we're all guilty of gossiping. Like there have been
Absolutely.
times that I feel like we've caught ourselves, and sometimes I don't know about y'all too, but I've been in the middle of it, and I'm like even halfway through, and I'm like, oh, I should stop this, but it's like a train wreck. It's now out, and I can't. I
Yeah.
can't pull it back. You know what I'm
The
saying?
train has left the station.
It has. It has.
Mhm.
And you have no control over what happens with that train after it's gone.
Yeah. That's so true. Uh,
Well, so I did some, Google digging, Google gossiping. No, I'm kidding. But I did some Google digging about gossip,
Yeah.
and the results were the consensus was is gossip is the act of spreading rumors or sharing personal information, often negative, about others, especially in a way that can damage relationships or reputations. It involves talking about others' private matters, often behind their backs, and can be harmful even when the information is true.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun.
But where's the line? And I think that's what people struggle with, right? Because there's two types. There's if I come tell Emma about Charity, right? If I say, "Oh my gosh, can you believe that Charity did blah 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 blah," right? That's gossip. But at the same time, if Charity comes to me and talks about Emma, and I don't put a stop to it. And I don't go, wait, where are we going with this? Because this maybe sounds like information that's not even my business. So there's those two. But because we're friends, there are times that maybe I do need to talk to one of you about a coworker because they have gotten on my last nerve and I feel like I need this space. I need to vent. And I need to, beyond venting, I need to really problem solve. Like, what do I do here? So where do y'all see the line? What is the difference between gossip and I need a moment with a friend to hash this out? Like, where's that line?
I would say that you actually kind of just answered the question of you were saying that you're going not even venting but going to problem solve. It's totally, in my opinion, what you're looking for is like an outcome. Because I feel like gossip in general, like we said, it's spreading rumors, whether or not they're true or not. I think venting is more of it's happening like you experience it firsthand and you're going with the intent to problem solve, or you're going with the intent to express how you're feeling or express like how it affected you personally. And
Hmm.
you want to workshop with somebody else like, hey, what can I do to get past this, or what can we do to fix it? And gossip is just like, oh, I heard this, and then it just stops
Right.
there because you just wanted to talk about somebody.
I
Yeah.
keep thinking about the whole, like the old TV shows where names have been changed to protect the innocents. Maybe
Yeah.
that's part of the line because if I can vent to you about a problem I'm having with a person or something that happened about a person with me or whatever, and I can say this is I can say we'll call them Mr. So and so or call them Mrs. W or whatever, and they you don't know who they are. For me, that would be like, okay, I'm venting here. I'm not trying to drag someone down. I'm not saying, hey, that's John or hey, that's Marcia. You know what I mean? So I don't know. For me, that would be a trigger in my own brain about am I venting or am I gossiping?
Yeah. Well, and something interesting that you brought up earlier, Charity, before, like in our pre-show discussion, is that we've almost made gossip popular in our culture today, right?
Oh yeah,
But
like
we've given it a name.
the tea. Let's spill the
Right.
tea or the coffee.
Yeah, and it's literally it's oh Emma, I need the tea on this person or that person. It's become it's become part of what's hype and what's
Yeah.
what people are aiming for in today's conversation is they're looking for that to dig into the details of somebody else's life. And even beyond gossip, which we're going to get into what the word says about that in a minute, we can move from gossip to judgment to criticism to a critical spirit. I mean, gossip can open the door to another entire barrage of sinful acts, really.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
I brought to the table something today, an experience I had to help with the practice of what to do when you have become a person that gossips. And it was in my first year of Bible college. And because I was the quiet girl sitting on the front row, I was voluntold that I was going to be it. And they sent me into the hallway. And everyone else got instruction. I didn't know what's going on. And they gave me my assignment when they came back in. And there was like 15 people lined up in the front of the classroom when I came back in. And my assignment was I was a person that had gossiped. Gossiped? Yes. And I had to apologize to the person that I gossiped about and ask for their forgiveness. And then I had to apologize to everyone that heard that gossip or that I gossiped to them about this person.
Hmm.
And so remember, this is all fake. Okay. We're talking like the first week of Bible college. First week. Okay. Again, quiet girl sitting on the front row. Okay. So I go down the list and I ask the first person, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have gossiped. I was wrong. Will you forgive me? And they forgive me. Okay. Again, this is fake. Okay. So then I have to go down. I have to say the same thing, except I'm so sorry I gossiped about so and so. It was wrong. Will you forgive me? And go down and whatever. So everyone forgives me. All these 15 people, except for the last one, they say, I'm so glad that you realized you were wrong and that you asked them for forgiveness and that they forgive you, but I don't forgive you. I burst into tears. And I was like, okay. And again, this was fake. I didn't even gossip
Right.
about anybody, but it felt so real. And maybe it taught me a really good lesson when I was very young. So,
Well,
Never
I
gonna
think,
gossip.
ever, I'm not telling anything about anyone to nobody.
right? I don't want to feel this way again. But I
No.
think that's so key, right? Because even if you gossip to, let's say, five people, let's say I take Emma's story and I go tell five people, uh, and out of frustration. And sometimes, honestly, you know what? Gossip comes out of jealousy
Mm,
or a critical spirit. I mean, there's usually something else rooted in it. But if I tell it to five people, I've done an irreparable harm to Emma and to those people. Because back to Emma's example, Emma looked at her coworker differently based on gossip that she didn't ask for. And it was not possible to shut it down. It came so quickly, right? And so, and that Emma was probably not the only person that person told. I'm just guessing. I don't know. I wasn't part of it. But so now we've shaded the view of this person in these five people's eyes. And that's just five. What if those people go and gossip? What if they now turn around and tell somebody else, did you know? I heard from Emma. And Emma's trustworthy, so it must be true that Charity did.
mm,
And it just has that ripple effect. And we don't even know what we've done, but we've created a perspective for people, even if it is true, if it wasn't our place. And we've got to be careful because the Bible says that we're going to give an account for
Yeah.
every word. God bless, for every word.
yes. Doesn't it make you just want to be real quiet?
It
Makes you want
does. I
to.
want, well, you know what? I would have said I want to be the quiet girl in the front row, Charity, but I'm not so sure after that story. Well, just like anything else, we're always bringing our stories to the kitchen table, but we never leave the kitchen table without bringing the word. And the Bible has a lot to say about our words, how we talk, and specifically about gossip. And it can destroy relationships. In Proverbs 16:28 it says, "A dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisper separates close friends." And that if you go into the Message version, it says, "Troublemakers start fights, and gossip will break up a friendship."
And that is so sad because how many friendships are ruined because of something that was like a game of telephone? He
Yeah.
said, she said, they said, I heard this, and it's not even true. Or part of it was true, but it wasn't even bad, and but it turned bad. That's just
How
sad.
many churches have experienced division
Oh
because
yeah.
one person was hurt by something, by one experience, and they overshared their perspective in that moment, changing the perspective of others.
Mhm.
And I mean,
Well, you
Yeah.
think
There's
about how words take root,
yeah.
like Proverbs 18:8, the words of a whisperer are like a delicious morsel. They go down into the inner parts of the body. And it's what are we planting? We are what we eat. And the message says listening to gossip is like eating cheap candy. Do you really want junk like that in your belly? I'm just saying. I mean, if can we relate to food? Let's just take a moment. Come on, y'all. We're at the kitchen table. Let's bring the food into it. I'm just saying. What kind of food are we feeding ourselves?
Well, and this is cheap candy. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I mean, I'm down for a good like Snickers or Reese's or something like that. But if you've ever had an imitation candy, that stuff is nasty.
Mm. It's not worth it. It's not worth the calories.
It's not.
Mm-mm.
Well, and gossip also dishonors God. Romans 1, 29 to 30 says they were filled with all manner of unrighteousness, evil, covetousness, malice. They are full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, maliciousness. Okay, so like there's a whole host of things in verse 29 that they're just really bad. And you're thinking, I'm not that bad. But then the end of 29 going into 30 says, they're gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless. Though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but they give approval to those who practice them. I don't know, but that whole verse makes me uncomfortable.
absolutely. It's the fact that they put gossipers at the very beginning of the list of all of those, because I feel like you don't even think to put those in the same category. But the fact that they are categorized all together as being that bad is,
Well, and in that list, they are gossipers is number one. Number two is slanderers, and then number three is haters of God. I mean, I would
exactly.
have thought that had been at the top of the list.
Mhm.
So yeah, uncomfortable with this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then, Ephesians 4:29, it gives us the Bible tells us though what to do. It says, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as good for building up as it fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear it." I mean, that in contrast, that verse kind of gives you a little feel good, right? If that's how you're living, it says, "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouth," which means no gossip. That's just one of many, but that's what we're focusing on today. But only such as is good for building up. That's what we're designed to do as children of God, is to honor Him by building up His church and His people.
Yeah. Well, because we have so much power with our words in general. Because I mean, if you go to James 3, 5 through 6, it says, in the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And among all the parts of the
Hmm.
body, the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. Like that in general, to me, I'm like, oh my goodness, like the power that our words hold, and like how
Mm.
much just one little thing that you can say, you can decide like to build somebody up and encourage people, or in the same light, just one little unencouragement to somebody, one little thing against somebody else can spark an entire blaze. And it really makes you have to think and stop about what things we're letting come out of our mouths.
Yeah, well, and it's like that game of telephone that you were talking about, Charity.
Mm-hmm.
Because in your case, you had gossiped, you had fake gossiped to 15 different people. But beyond that 15 different people, when they play that game of telephone, and if what you've said is impactful enough, who else
Mhm.
are they going to tell? And who will they tell? And who will they tell? And what will the story be by the time you actually hear it?
Yeah, because each time it becomes its own little line of telephone. Like from one line, you have so many branches that come off from that.
Well, and this reminds me, it's not a verse that we had on our list, and so I don't have the reference right handy, but there's a verse that talks about that we should confess our sins to one another. And why is that? Because the Bible also tells us that iron sharpens iron. So if I'm struggling with something and I need some help and I come to Charity and I'm like, "Hey, I'm actually struggling with this particular sin or this particular problem and I don't know how to get out of it. Can you pray with me? Can you offer your wisdom, what have you?" And now Charity starts and she's like, "Hey, Emma, I know you're friends with Nancy too, and so I want you to keep her in your prayers."
Yeah.
Uh, but she was just sharing with me that she's struggling with this, or, I mean,
Yeah.
humans do some pretty crazy things. But
Humans are dumb.
it,
Just saying it. Humans are dumb.
okay, so you're totally correct on that. We just a couple of weekends ago had an event, and one of our speakers talked about that Jesus refers to us as sheep in the Bible about 500 times, and that sheep are, in fact, one of the dumbest things on the planet. We're not going to go there today. That's maybe a different podcast. But you are 100% correct in that.
Well, remember that even while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us, which
Right.
basically, charity paraphrase says, yes, we're dumb, but Jesus still loves us and wants us to be better.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
Proverbs 17:9 tells us, let's get back on track here. Proverbs 17:9 tells us that love prospers when fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. And I think this is the tool for how do we come back from this, right? How do we, if somebody has gossiped, and I'm talking specifically friends, right? Because that's what we all are here at the kitchen table is friends. So it says, love prospers when fault is forgiven, but dwelling on it separates close friends. And so it's our responsibility. If Emma, you start gossiping about me, it's my job to forgive you. However, that doesn't mean I start unveiling all of my life secrets to you again, right? There
Yeah.
has to be a healthy boundary there. I have to use some wisdom. And I have to see that you're going to continue to honor me as a friend before I start to open that door again. And I'll tell you, that's a lesson I've had to learn the hard way. Uh,
Trust is easily broken, but it takes a while to build back up.
and
100%.
sometimes it never does.
Yeah. That-
So, and back to because you talked about the fire, Proverbs 26:20 says, "Fire goes out without wood, and a quarrel disappears when gossip stops." So, gossip itself creates conflict. Proverbs 26:20 said, "Fire goes out without wood, and quarrel disappears when gossip stops." And back to your illustration, Emma, when you were talking about you can set your whole life on fire. So if you're not gossiping, you're not actually feeding that flame, you're not feeding that fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like you said, there, if you give no fuel, if you give no gasoline on everything that's going on, eventually the stuff just goes out. And so eventually it will hit the end of the gossip train. But you just have to be aware of it and try and stop it as soon as possible.
so we
Well, and
need to
it
be a
stops.
caboose. I gotta be a caboose.
Yeah,
You
since we're
agree?
using the train metaphor,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm a caboose. Okay,
It stops with me.
that's right.
Well, and I think that's the stance we have to take, right? It stops with me. And honestly, if I'm a true friend, if you're bringing me gossip, I've got to say, Charity, I don't I don't think you're meaning to gossip right now, but it's clearly what you're doing. And so maybe this isn't a conversation we need to continue. And
Mm.
if you continue, then I should probably not probably, but I should excuse myself from the conversation.
Right.
I think if you go back to Romans, it talks about we should outdo one another in showing honor within the church. And I've always loved that verse because I think, gosh, how beautiful is that? What could the church look like if we spent time? I'm going to outdo you in showing honor, and then you start trying to outdo me. And what does that look like to the world? And when they come into the fold and they're part of the church, and then we're trying to outdo them. I mean, the ripple effect. We talked about the negative effect in gossip, but what does honor look like? And I love this story, and I read past it, the first couple times I read through the Bible. But if you go over to Genesis 9:20 to 27, now this is my paraphrasing, okay? I'm not going to read for time's sake the whole thing. But in Genesis 9, the flood has ended and Noah has planted a vineyard. Well, from that vineyard, there was wine created, and Noah drank way too much and got drunk. And he got naked and he laid in his tent. Now, the Bible doesn't say the word naked. It said he was lying uncovered, okay? But I'm now from the South and it's naked. Uh, right? So that's pretty embarrassing. Well, his son Ham saw him, and what do you think he did? I mean, y'all probably know because you read your Bible. But for those of you that don't know the story, you would think, well, maybe he got his dad a blanket. I mean, that's what I would have done. I'd have been like, oh, okay, well, there's some things. So let's just cover this poor guy up. He actually didn't do that. He went to his brothers and he was like, hey, guess what? Dad got drunk and he's naked and he's laying in the tent. Charity is dying over the word naked. This is great. I love it. Um, and and so rather than going up to see what had happened and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, look at him. Let's take a picture. Let's post it on Facebook. Look at the trouble dad got in over the weekend, right? They didn't do that. These guys took a garment, placed it on their shoulders, and then they walked backwards, not even looking at him, and covered him up so they wouldn't see his nakedness. Like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not convenient because one might even say, what does it even matter? I mean, just run over and throw the blanket on and get it over with real quick. But they were like, let me go one step further. And when Noah woke up, he blessed Shem and Japheth for their respect, but he actually pronounced a curse on Ham's son, Canaan, for Ham's dishonor.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's intense. And I just think of that when maybe charity has fallen in a situation, but for me to share about it, not only am I not honoring God, I'm not honoring my friend to go tell everybody about it. And so I should be building her back up, helping her back up to be back in right standing with God and honoring her as she's walking that out, as opposed to sharing her business all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like, so how you said that he cursed Ham's son Canaan. I mean, we take account for what we do and what we say. And so there's consequences for the things that we say. And I mean, if you go to Proverbs 18:21, it says the tongue can bring life or sorry, the tongue can bring death or life, and those who love to talk will reap the consequences. So I mean, you have to watch what you're saying, and I mean even what you're doing, but specifically since we're talking about that today, watching what you're saying, because there will always be a cause and effect. And so if you are the cause of something, there is going to be an effect down the line.
I just want to interject one thing
Yeah, please.
because while we're talking about the power of words, all right, so I'm trying to teach myself more Spanish. So I got a Spanish English Bible. This is so off topic, but I promise it's going to slide right into home, okay?
Okay.
I've started in Genesis.
It's gonna slide right into the station.
Yeah, slide. The caboose is bringing it. And so I'm starting in Genesis and I'm reading in English and Spanish, and I'm trying to teach myself the words in Spanish that I don't already know as I go along. And one of the things that I love is talking about how God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. But when you
Yeah.
read it in Spanish, they translate it differently from the original languages. So it's really saying more like, and God said, "Light exists," and the light went. So, it's like it's just so poetic, and that's why I love Spanish. But how interesting is like God said let there be light and there was light. But when God spoke, the light like left God. Like he's all things. He created it from nothing. And like that's the power of God's words. And he's given us the same power in our words.
Yeah.
And we need to be like him and speak life and light into people and not the darkness. Like
Yeah.
be a good caboose.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think even if you go back and listen to the last podcast, that was, what was it? Stop, Look, and Love. And it was stop judging a book by a cover, look at them like God sees them. I think even in their faults, trying to see them like God sees them. Now, they may be in a space where they're immovable right now. You can hope for them without having to share where they're failing currently.
Right.
So I think it all comes back to, what are you building? I mean, I don't think our intention for most people, right? There are some people, listen, gossip is their daytime job. It really is. But I think most people, it's not really their desire to dishonor people. They just haven't really evaluated what they're doing with their words. I mean, or you know what? Honestly, maybe it is. Maybe they do. What is that Disney movie? Dishonor on you, dishonor on you, dishonor on your whole family. You know what I'm talking about?
Blonde, the little
Yeah, the little
John
dragon.
McCall.
Yes, okay. So I don't know why that just rabbit trail. Welcome to the kitchen table. But anyway, but sometimes somebody has upset you or they brought you harm. And so even though you were personally involved in that, it's like I want to do as much damage with the knowledge that I have as possible because I'm hurting. And we don't physically, we're like, I'm not physically willing to take on the responsibility of bringing them harm and getting my justice. But boy, I will tell everybody I can to try and get the justice so people know who they really are. So maybe in that moment, you're like, I do want to dishonor this person because you're in a broken place. You're in a place of hurt. And I think that's real. People experience that. But when you go to share that information, the question isn't, does the person deserve honor or not? The question is, does God deserve honor or not? Because it's his spirit and our spirit are one. And whatever we're doing with our mouth, it will honor or dishonor God. So it's not necessarily about the person, even if you were wronged. It's about, am I honoring God?
Yeah, it's putting that place of like, if I'm supposed to be representing Christ, if I'm a Christian, then I'm supposed to be Christ-like. And so I'd say, I mean, if you can't really determine if what you have to say is gossip or venting, just go tell it to God, because at the end of the day, he's not going to share your business or tell other people or things like that. And he is the greatest listener and problem solver.
That's
So
right. So as we go, remember, honor God in all you do, including the words you share. Choose glory, not gossip.
Until next time, be sure to like, share, and follow us on social media.
And keep it real at the kitchen table.